So, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating way to look at the Quran. Our source material puts forward this idea that instead of being just one big block of rules, you can actually see it as having two different layers. One is a kind of universal religion for all of humanity, and the other is a specific set of laws for a particular society. Let's dig into what that actually means. And this, right here, is the question at the heart of it all. Is the message of the Quran all one single system? Or are there different levels, different layers of meaning and purpose? I mean, just asking this one question, according to the analysis we're exploring, completely changes how you can approach the entire text. It's a real game changer. All right, so here's our plan. We're going to start with the absolute foundation. Then we'll explore those two layers we mentioned, the universal one and the specific one. After that, we'll put them side by side to really see the difference, and then we'll wrap it all up. Okay, first things first. Before we get into any rules or rituals, the source we're looking at argues that the Quran lays down a core intellectual commitment first. It's this powerful idea called the firmest handhold. Think of it like the anchor for everything else that's going to come. Now, this verse right here, this is basically the cornerstone of the whole argument. The key phrase is the most trustworthy handhold, or al-urwa al-wuthqa in Arabic. But what does that actually mean in practice? What is this handhold you're supposed to grasp? Well, the source text breaks it down into two pretty straightforward but really profound principles. First, you reject any other source of law or ultimate authority. That's what the word tagu often refers to. And second, you believe in God as the one and only source of guidance. Simple, right? But that's the absolute bedrock. Everything else we're going to talk about is built right on top of this. So, with that foundation firmly in place, let's look at the first major layer that gets built on it. Our source calls this a universal religion. And this is a big deal, because the idea is that this is a core set of beliefs and ethics meant for every single person on the planet, no matter who they are or where they come from. So what does this universal religion actually involve? You might be surprised by how simple it is. It really just boils down to these three things: belief in God, belief in a final day of accountability, and then, and this is key, actually doing good things, putting that belief into action. The whole point, according to this analysis, is that this framework is designed to be incredibly inclusive, to go beyond any one tribe or group. But it's not just about what you believe in your heart. This universal layer also draws a fundamental moral red line. You can think of it as a set of ethical guardrails for civilization, a code that applies to everyone, everywhere, at all times. And here they are, the big 9 prohibitions. The source pulls these together from different verses. And when you look at them, they just make sense, don't they? Respecting your parents, being honest in business, protecting the vulnerable, not killing unjustly. I mean, these aren't rules tied to one specific legal system. They're presented as timeless, universal moral truths. Okay, so that was layer 1, the big, broad, universal stuff. Now we're going to zoom in to layer 2. This is where our source explains the idea of Sharia, or divine law. The argument is that this layer takes all those universal values we just talked about and turns them into a specific, detailed legal system for an actual organized community. Here's a perfect example of how that works. The universal value from layer 1 says adultery is an immoral act. It's a broad ethical statement. The Sharia, in layer 2, then takes that principle and translates it, saying, okay, and within this community, here is the specific enforceable law and defined punishment for that act. See the shift? It goes from a moral idea to a state law. Let's do another one, this time about money. The universal value is, be fair in your business deals. Okay, great, but what does fair actually look like on a contract? How do you prevent bribery in a real-world system? That's where the Sharia layer comes in with the nitty-gritty, detailed rules for trade, what's okay in a contract and what's not, to build a working economic system. And one more example. The universal rule is that unjust killing is forbidden. Simple enough. The Sharia then applies that in a very specific legal way. It establishes clear laws against things like armed rebellion, or fighting within the community itself. It's all about taking that big moral rule and using it to create internal stability and order for a specific society. So, we've looked at the universal layer and the specific layer. Let's bring it all together now and really put our finger on the core difference between them. This is where the whole framework really clicks into place. This table just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you have the universal religion. Its essence is belief and big, overarching ethics. Its scope is literally all of humanity, and its function to act as a moral compass. On the other side, you have the Sharia. Its essence is detailed laws and regulations, its scope is a specific, organized society, and its function is to be a concrete legal framework. I love the analogy. One is a compass, the other is a detailed roadmap. And that really brings us to our final thought. If you were to look at the Quran, or really any religious text, through this two-layer lens, how might that change the way you read it? It challenges you to think about what's meant for all people at all times versus what might be for a specific people at a specific time. It's a huge question and definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.